Imam bin Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala mentions that the sign of an accepted Ramadan has a component of it that is a feeling and a component of it that has a very observable impact in terms of your deeds. So when it comes to the feeling, the one who is pleased with the departure of Ramadan and the one who is distressed with its coming forward, that is a sign of a Ramadan that is not accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if one Ramadan leaves, you are not sad over its departure, and when it comes, it makes you sad, you are sad of its arrival, that is a sign that you are refusing the gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you are not allowing Ramadan to penetrate your heart whatsoever. As for the effect, it's the consistency of your deeds. When is Laylatul Qadr? Because we get asked every day, did you see the sunrise? What do you think? Do you think it was last night? The rooster was crowing, the dog wasn't barking. But the Prophet ﷺ never abandoned the masjid. But he was asked this question, when is Laylatul Qadr? And he said, when the Qadr of Allah is greater in your heart. When the estimation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has become greater in your heart, then that is a sign that you have observed and caught Laylatul Qadr. There are three things that the ulama mention in terms of understanding, having a greater Qadr of Allah in your heart, a greater estimation of Allah in your heart. Three of them. Number one, Allah is worth a greater sacrifice. I was tired, I'm sleep deprived, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. It's hard, right? Sometimes it gets difficult. I feel the pain of that sacrifice. Well, Allah is worth a greater sacrifice. The second thing that the ulama mention is that Allah is worth a greater share. What does that mean? A greater share of your wasa'il, your means to reach Him. And that is as-sam'a wal-absara wal-af'ida. It starts off with the faculties that Allah has given you of hearing. Allah is worth a greater portion of what I listen to. Allah is worth a greater portion of what I look at. Allah is worth a greater portion of my thoughts, of my contemplation, my fu'ad, what occupies my heart. Allah is worth a greater portion of a greater share of that. So it starts with that. Then they say, Allah is worth a greater portion of my time, because time is a means to reach Allah. Allah is worth a greater portion of my wealth. Charity is better than what I spend for my own desires in this life. What I spend upon the poor and the oppressed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I spend upon righteousness. This is the observable part. And the last thing, a greater hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do you want from Allah? You know, when someone makes dua to Allah and there's a doubt, can He really answer me? مَا قَدَرَ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ. You didn't give Allah His due estimation. When a person seeks forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they say, I don't know if Allah is going to forgive me or not. You know, I have some really big sins that I've committed. مَا قَدَرَ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ. You're not giving Allah His due credit. You're not giving Allah His proper estimation. With Laylatul Qadr in particular, if Allah increases the estimation, the Qadr of Allah, the power of Allah in our hearts, the share of Allah in our hearts, that is a sign of an accepted Laylatul Qadr. And if there is an observable increase in your sacrifice for Him, an observable increase in the share of your faculties and your means that you allocate towards Him, and a greater increase in your hope in Him, then that is an increase that we seek in Laylatul Qadr.